Thank you, Tommy. Tommy Davis is here to do a presentation on transmitter hunting, or better known as fox hunting to some of us. But he had one last weekend, and it went really well. And he is doing these quite often, along with our club, with Ron. And I want to present KB7HTA. And
Thank you.
I leave it to you, Tommy.
All right, thank you,
Just
Charlie.
give me the good handshake from the middle of it.
Okay, as soon as we get the presentation up, we'll go. But as he was saying, fox hunting, tea hunting, I will use those interchangeably during the talk, so they're both the same thing. So, you know, just when I do that, then just realize you just substitute the one for the other and we're good to go. And okay, so next slide. Okay, fox hunting history. If you can imagine, back in the 30s, they started these, and they used vacuum tubes. Can you imagine vacuum tube transmitters? And then you got the portable things. I guess they were portable that you'd go find these with. So vacuum tubes. Then later on, after the war, they moved on to better tubes. and they used it for radio direction finding. And you can imagine that they used that for civil defense and some other, you know, applications for finding transmitters, et cetera. Next slide. And later on, in the last half of the 20th century, we started getting transistors. They got smaller. The transmitters got smaller. The receivers got a little smaller. So it was, you know, somewhat easier to do. They started doing them in parks, but many times they did them just in vehicles, you know. So and today, transmitter hunting is a global sport, and in all countries they do these kind of activities. And California's got a lot going. In fact, I'll talk about Earl in a little bit. Earl brought that over to the valley here, and he did a lot of them out in California, and they still do. Next slide. So, you know, he started the hunts here about 2016 or before. If you look on my website under T-Hunts, down at the bottom there'll be an archived PDF of the hunts that he's done. It's pretty interesting to see. You would recognize some of the people in some of the photos and not realizing that they've been doing them for quite a while. And also some of the techniques that are used, some of the antennas that were used, some of the transmitters and how they hid them and how they tried to fool other people when they hid them. There's some quite outlandish ideas that were hatched in order to try to stump the hunters. So, you know, that's kind of the fun part of hiding the transmitters, is you can get creative ways like putting a transmitter in a tin can so that the signals all go up and, you know, or things like that. So anyway, so it's fun to hide them. All right, so anyway, if you want more information, that's the website to go to. Next. This was my first hunt. I did it in 2018. You can see Robert N7FLR, myself, Joe, and there's Earl on the far left. You know, we usually had around 4 to 7, 8 people. We didn't have the huge numbers like we're getting now with some of the fox hunts that we do now. Next slide. Andy, KJ7RFN, did some of the hunts. He tried to get things going again after Earl's passing and didn't quite get it going. Finally, in October, Ron started trying to get it going again, and it was quite successful. We had about 13 hams in attendance. Next slide. So anyway, we get together on the 3rd Saturday of every month. Now, will that change? It's possible. If Ron or I are not available, then we may very well change that slightly for 1 month, but we're going to try to do it 3rd Saturday of every month. And The nice thing about these, the previous ones that were done where we would go up to Inspirata. There's a park up there, and we'd start up there, or either we'd start on Lossi Road, which is up in the north part, either the north or south starting point. And then the transfer would be hid somewhere in town. And people would get in their cars and go, you know, get an initial heading, because the rule was you had to be able to hear the transmitter from the start point. And then after that, you get an initial heading, and you'd take off and run all over town and try to find it. And finally, you'd find it at the park, and then narrow it down in that park and find it. So we did that for a long time. There was a lot of nervousness about doing that because of the distracted driving part of, you know, doing it in a car. And I will tell you that that is a concern. And that's why we decided to start doing it at the park. So you drive to the park, they're hidden, you find them, and then when it's over, you go home. But there's no driving during the actual hunt. Okay? Next slide. So Ron and I have divided the town in half. He's got his half of town, and I got my half of town. And so we've got two zones, and you can see this is the 215 this way, the 15 all the way up to the north. I do the east side, southeast side. He does the northwest side and the north side, okay? So that's how we divide it up. So when I go to pick a park, I'll pick one down in here. You'll pick one up in there. Okay, next slide. So planning a T-hunt. How's it done? How's all the magic done? So initially, about a week before, 10 days before, Ron and I will go out, look around, find a park that's appropriate. We'll take a few pictures. You know, like this is the Whitney Mesa Park that I did. I took a picture of the entrance. That was a little tricky to find for some people. Next slide. And then I'll make a, you know, using Google and Photoshop, I'll work up a map and show where that is, and then I'll put it on my website. Generally, I'll put all the stuff up, hopefully. We nearly always have the stuff ready to go about a week ahead of time, so people can kind of plan for the event. All right, next slide. Day of the hunt. Prepare a sign-up sheet, and I'll show you an example of that later. Acquire donuts and coffee. That's important because people get crabby if they get there and there's no donuts and coffee. And usually there'll be water there. Go to the park starting point, and then whoever's doing it will hide the transmitters. Now, I know it's tempting to get there early and kind of hide in the bushes and see where the Easter bunny hides all the eggs, because that's what you used to do as a kid, right? Try to avoid that. You know, the thing is we get there about a half an hour earlier than 8:30, you know, by 8 o'clock or so to hide the transmitter. So avoid getting there too early. Show up at 8:30, it'll already be hidden, and socialize and wait for the start. The start hunt and record the start time. We'll have a sheet and we'll put, say if we start at 9 o'clock, which is usually what we try to do, we'll put 9 o'clock, or if it's 9:01, we'll put 9:01, and we'll use that as the official starting time. Then the hunters go out, find all the transmitters that they can. You know, depending on how many is hidden. You know, when I do it as many as 4. Sometimes there's 3, sometimes there's 1, sometimes there's 2. It just depends on the size of the park and the transmitters available for the hunt. They come back and they prove that they found the transmitters. There's 2 ways to do that. One is you actually take a picture of where the transmitter is hidden on your camera. Everybody's usually got a camera, you do that, right? Or you can take a picture, or you can write down the code that's on the transmitter. And usually it's a 2-character code, like 7 and Q, or something like that. So then you write those down and you go back and you give the person that's running the hunt the 2 that you found, or 3, or however many there were, and showing that you got all of them. After you do that, record the time back, subtract it from the initial one, and that's your total time. And that's how we determine who wins. Announce the winners, post the results and photos online, Usually I'll post those on my website. If other people want to copy that stuff and post it on their own websites for people's information, I don't have any problem with that at all. That's fine. Next. Your internet connection is, am I unstable? All right, so this is an example of a sign-in sheet. I think Ron did this one. This was his October hunt. And you can see he puts the call signs and the place and the times back. Next. All right, transmitters used. So let's talk a little bit about the transmitters that we use. There's this one. And this is a Microfox 50 manufactured by Bionics. And it's transmitting right now. And let's see.
Frequency mode.
It should come on in about 15 seconds. Anyway, there it is. So that when you're out fox hunting, you're going to hear that. And using that and some other stuff, you're going to track it down and find it hiding in the bushes somewhere or in the rocks or wherever, okay? And after it does its noisy bit, then it gives you real slow CW, since some of you may not know CW, okay? So this one just transmits my call sign and the number 1, meaning it's transmitter number 1, okay? If you've got the picture there, I'll turn it off. Okay. All right, so it's got a range of about 5+ miles. And the reason I say around 5+ miles is because a lot of it depends on the power that you're transmitting, and it also depends the antenna that you got. It also depends on whether it's line of sight. So as you all know, with VHF, it all plays a part, right? So it's got SMA connector on the antenna. It's got, you can define the thing, and it's got a web-based config tool. Next slide. This is what the web-based config tool looks like. So you can put in your tone speed, tone duration, loop time, which is every 45 seconds. And then a delay, if you want to not start it for a little while, you can put in a delay. Frequency, and then what you want it to send out for your CW message, and the Morse speed. And the power level, I put 7 in, which 7 is about 2.2 milliwatts. But you can crank it all the way up to 50 milliwatts if you want. Certainly, the lower the power, the longer it's going to last, right? So, and then you can update it, and then you can, after you update it, then it's ready to go. Okay? Questions about that? Okay, next slide. There's another type. There's this one. There it is right there. I've got the lid on it, but it's just got 2 batteries in it. And if you look right here, real careful, there's a little tiny crystal oscillator. Earl bought a bunch of these crystal oscillators for 146, 565. And all you do is power the oscillator with 3 volts, put a little antenna on, it's good to go. And it's got about 5 milliwatts, and basically a wire-tuned antenna, just a half dipole. Okay? Next slide. Now this one that I just showed you does not have CW in it. It's just a carrier. So on your radio, you will hear a hiss. That's all you'll hear is a hiss. And as you point to it with an antenna, if you've got a Yagi or something like that, you'll hear the hiss increase. The S meter will go further over. You know, it's that kind of thing, but there's no actual ID or anything. So if you're looking for that one, it's just a little bit different than the others. All right, so if you want to have transmitter power, 1 milliwatt quarter mile, that's probably about right. 50 milliwatts, 12 miles is ridiculous. It's probably more like 1.5 miles. And then of course 100 milliwatts citywide, which is probably true if you have a good Yagi antenna to pick it up. So it's all relative, and it depends on whether you've got a good line of sight, and it depends on what kind of antenna you've got. You know, if I had this one, and I took you know, a cable, an SMA, and hooked it to a you know, a GP6 or something like that, it's going to get out much better, and you're going to hear it a lot further away. So a lot of that has to do with the person that's hiding it, and it would be more important for this if you're doing the car type fox hunt. Next slide. And there's an example of one hidden. See right there, see that code? An ampersand sign and a pound sign. So that would be the code that you jot down or take a picture of it, like this was done. And this one was at Whitney Park, and it was hidden in some rocks. Okay?
Challenging one to find.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was a little harder than the usual. But you know, we don't want to make them all easy. Next. Finding the fox. Okay, so we've seen what kind of transmitters are used. Now you're going to find the fox, okay? So these are the things the list of things you want to consider to use. Now, there's some that are certainly optional. There's some that you'll need. You certainly need a receiver. But antenna, attenuator, frequencies that used, you know, so you'll need a receiver of some kind. And then you'll need to interpret the signal somehow. Okay? Next slide. All right, so let's start first with the first item on the list, which was antennas. Here is a 2-meter Yagi antenna. And this one was actually built by Earl. He built this one for me. I needed one for my, you know, in fact, here it is right here. If I can unbury this long enough. Don't want to stab anybody. Okay, so you can see this one here. And it's a nice little Yagi, but it's not tape measure. It's, you know, a welding rod, I think, or something. Steel, stainless steel rods. Okay, so next slide. The next one, of course, is a tape measure. I've seen several of those tape measure, different designs for tape measures at the last fox hunt. Several people had those, and they're perfectly good and they work well. You could also do one that was dual band if you wanted to. The nice thing about them is they're pretty easy to make. You can make them yourself. They don't cost hardly anything to make. You just get a few tape measures at Home Depot or whatever and go for it. Next. Now here's this one. And this one is an arrow. And I originally got this not for fox hunting, but I got this originally to use for satellites because it has both 2-meter and 70 centimeter, and it works well for the satellites because you can also turn it so that you can adjust the signal strength to make sure you get the best signal strength coming down and going up for the satellite. So this is really handy to use. But for fox hunting, it also works well because it's got a 2-meter and a 70 centimeter. Next slide, please. The other is a loop. All right, so the nice thing about a loop is you turn it one way and you get a null and signal the other way. And depending on how you turn it, you get signal or no, or a null. And then that way you can work your way into finding the fox that way. Next. And then there is the old paper clip. I didn't bring one of those to show you, but you know, some people, you know, as you get really close to the fox, you know, it kind of, because the transmitter is right there, you can use a paper clip. Now, I will warn you, be careful. You can damage the clip on your SMA connector with this paper clip. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Okay. So anyway, you can just take this and stick it into the, but like I said, don't get one too fat and make sure, you know, you test it to make sure you're not going to mess up your SMA connector on your radio because it might be a little tough to replace, okay? So just keep that in mind when you're using a paper clip. And thank you for that instructional device. Okay, so why use attenuators? Okay, well, as you get close to the Fox, you got this transmitter transmitting. And as we all know, let's say we're using this valve thing, right? What kind of case has it got? Plastic, right? So the signals from the transmitter are going to just blow off the antenna and just go straight into the receiver, right? So as you get closer to the Fox, it's just going to show a nice signal strength, and you're not going to be able to tell what's going on. So there are some ways around that. First of all, there's several types of attenuator. There's a step attenuator, and I'll show you a picture of this. That's a step attenuator. And then there's offset attenuators, and then there's smaller antennas. You can put smaller antennas, and then you can always use the foil trick. And I've seen some good implementations of that. Some people take a piece of foil with alligator clips and a wire around their neck, and they've got it, here. That's a pretty cool idea. And so everybody's got their own idea how to do it. But with a foil here, and you put your radio here on your chest, and you turn your back and you look for a null, no signal, then you know the Fox is behind you, right? So then you can turn around, walk a little further, turn around again, keep repeating until it goes. Okay, next. So that's a step attenuator. I showed you that. This is an HP, you can see on there if you read it, it's an HP 355D. And it's got up to 120 decibels of attenuation, which works well. And how do you handle all this stuff when you're doing it? This, I got, when I was in Italy, we go around and you go to wine tasting, and you put your glass in here, right? And so, but it also works well for an attenuator, right? So you can put attenuator in here. So dual purpose. If you're not using it for wine, you can use it for your attenuator. Anyway, so, all right. So attenuator bag. All right, next slide. And then you can also homebrew yourself an attenuator, step attenuator. Next slide. And that's what it looks like inside. And next one. This is a digital attenuator. There's ICs that you can get. And the ICs, analog devices has it. And what you can do is, depending on the data here, you can set them low, high, and they're additive. So if you did D0 low and D1 low and this one low and that one low, it'd be about 45 dB of attenuation. So you could make a circuit board. This is analog devices. It's a, what do you call it, evaluation board. And you can get that, and you can make your own digital attenuator. Okay, next. Then there's the offset attenuator. The offset attenuator is kind of, I don't know who thought this up, but it's kind of an interesting concept in the sense that what you do is, next slide, is it's got a 4 megahertz crystal in it. And so it takes the signal from the transmitter, it mixes it with 4 megahertz, and so then you'll receive a signal on 142.565 or 150.565. But the advantage of that is it's not on the main frequency of the transmitter. So when you're listening to it, you can adjust the knob. Can you go backwards one? The knob there, you can adjust the amount of attenuation. So you can turn that knob looking at your S meter until it goes down, right? Almost all the way, and then you get a good idea of where it's at. So next slide, and then next slide. And I don't know if you noticed, but I had an instructional video and the site that had this particular thing, links on there so you can get that and look at it. But the circuit looks like something like this. And in the notes, they talk about adding this wire here to help you out. If the signals are too strong or something, you can use that. Next one. Receivers. So, attenuators. Questions about attenuators? Okay. Either I did a good job or you're asleep. Okay. So yeah, that one. So you can use an HT for a receiver. Next, you can use something like, you know, the 705, IC705, small portable radio. You can use something like that. Next. Or you can use an SDR radio. Next. The next is interpreting the signal. So now that you've got the signal from the radio, how do you best interpret it? Most of us use our ear, right? We listen to it. Some of us use the little S meter on the handheld, although some of those are hard to see. I've seen you can use an analog S meter. I've seen people build an analog, you know, get an analog meter, hook it into the HT, and actually get a nice reading with a needle, which is a lot easier to see the changes in the null when you're looking for it. The next thing, like I said, sound level, and the other thing is computer analysis. So that's how we deal with interpreting the signal, one of those methods. Next. Putting it all together. Okay, so the simplest form of this would be to just use your HT and use body shielding. You can hold the HT, like I told you, with the aluminum foil if you wish. You can rotate your body slowly, right? As I mentioned earlier, you can rotate it until you get the least amount of signal. If you had a meter here that's easy to read, that would certainly help a lot, right? And then when it becomes the weakest, the fox is located behind you. You turn around, walk toward the fox a little, turn around and do it again until you get to where you're really close to the fox, okay? You can also, there's another technique, you can change to the third harmonic. So the third harmonic would be, up at the top, it's at what? For 146, 565, it'd be 439, 695. So you tune to that on your UHF, and then you could actually, because it's a third harmonic, it's going to be what, about 50 decibels down? So that'll help you track down the fox as well. So that's another technique you can use. Next. Now, here's Mike's idea of a way to do this. You can see he's got his 705. He's got his attenuator, and he's got his loop antenna. And he's got a vest to hold it all together. Next slide. So 705, loop antenna, attenuator, battery, and vest. And so he came to one fox hunt, and he had this all set, and he did pretty good with it. I mean, it worked fairly well. So I guess my point there is, people come up with some interesting ways to find the foxes. Next slide. This one I showed you a minute ago. And let's see, this one. This one's interesting because you see this? You see it says 4 right there? That 4 is an attenuation factor. This does everything for you. As I point, now it's at a 5 because I'm pointing right at the transmitter. So I can take this, and this transmitter, if it's hidden somewhere in a park, in 5 minutes I can find it, or less, with this. That's the good news. The bad news is they stopped production. So anyway, you can't get one. As you're all getting ready on your phone to go order one, no. You might. I assume eventually they may build some more, but right now they're not available. And on here, this is the guy's website.
Right.
And so you can check that and maybe write him, and maybe he's going to make some more. I don't know. But anyway, that thing is the best thing since buttered popcorn. You take it with that little Yagi and you, okay, it's right there. Yeah. It takes some of the fun out of it. But anyway, next slide. Here's another way. You know, well, let's talk about that one. You know, and I told you it's auto ranging. So that thing will go all the way up to about, I think, 6, 7, 8, 9 as you're right over top of it. And so you know you're just about right there. Next. Next slide. Yeah. There's another way. Now, we've had some people here in the past. We've had Nate, what is it, N7BSD. We've had Mike that you saw there. They've used the SDRs. And you can imagine that if you took this radio, you took cables from these antennas and put them with 4 on the top of your roof of your car, if you were doing a vehicle one. Next slide. You can see you get, it's a phased thing. These are modeling, build your own how to build one, and the phase modeling software that models your design that you come up with, you know, how far your antennas on the top of your car are and everything, or on the top of your head if you wear a hat with all these on it. However you want to do it, you know, this is a way you do a phased array. Next slide. Okay, so that's pretty much it. The next hunt will be hosted by Ron. It's going to be at Centennial Hills Park, and it'll be 9 a.m. But remember, get there at 8:30, coffee, donuts. I think he's promising that, right? Yeah, and so it should be a good hunt. All right, first of all, before I go to questions, are there any comments by people that did some hunts? Anybody else want to say something about your hunt and what you experienced and how well it worked? And
No, that's like you said, the one in the picture was probably the hardest of the 4 in the November hunt. Tom hit it in a rock outcropping, so the signal was kind of bouncing. That was the hardest one to find,
yeah.
of the 4.
And what's your equipment? What did you use?
I just used my HT with an antenna, a removable, a BNC antenna, and I just used my body for a shield.
Right. Did you use foil?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Did you take your antenna off all the way to where you were just kind of sniffing it with the jack? Yeah.
The signal got super strong. I would take the antenna off and
Right.
zero in on the guy.
And he's quite successful at it. He's done really good on a lot of the hunts. So it just goes to show you don't need a lot of equipment. But that said, it's kind of fun to come up with new ideas and different ways of doing it. And you know, when you go to the hunts, you can try different things out. Other people that did some hunts here. Yeah.
I participated in yours at Sunset Park and had a blast with that. That was my first time doing it, and
Yeah.
it was just my HT with the rubber duck and
Yeah.
some foil under my shirt, and did the turning around thing, and it worked great.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I brought some of my stuff with me on the last one, and our winner over here was using, I brought a tape measure antenna like you identified there in the picture. And like you say, you can do it sitting there watching TV, doesn't take very long. Get a tape measure from Harbor Freight. It's already measured for you.
The measurements are on
it
it.
out, you know. And, but doesn't take long to make, and the plans are out there on the internet. Print them out, follow them. It's in tune, and it worked great for him, but you have to have, I had an attenuator that he used, and you pretty much have to do that or do the harmonic or the off frequency.
Okay. Anybody else? You?
I promptly went home and made a tape measure antenna after that.
Right.
And then at that hunt, I won that little attenuator with
Right.
131 dBs worth of attenuation. And
Right.
It needed some work, so I took it home, fixed it up. It's ready to rock and roll for this.
Okay, for the next one? Okay.
Yep.
You hear that, Ron? He's going to win. He said he's going to win. Yes.
So Tommy, have you ever thought about combining that with a treasure hunt so that when they find the first transmitter, it tells them the frequency for the next transmitter?
That's a great idea.
Find something else. That's what we did last Easter.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Bill swept away with
Yeah.
all the goodies.
Certainly that's a good idea. And, you know, in the future, we may want to do one with vehicles again. We may want to do one like you suggested there. You know, it's open, and you know, it's one of those kind of things where, you know, whatever the people want, you know, the hiders will provide it. Speaking of hiders, I disappear in the summer around here. And so I will not be doing the June or the August hunt as I should. So if there's somebody that would be willing to volunteer to do one or both of those, please let Ron know or myself know, and we can plug you into those slots, because otherwise we probably won't have a hunt in August or June. Ron will do one in July, in September, but the times that I'll be missing, we won't have one now.
Were you planning on going up to Wisconsin or Michigan at that time? Or?
I will be going up there for 2 or 3 weeks during that time in the summer, because I've got my boat up there. So.
Well, I thought I just mentioned it. I was talking to my brother up in Wisconsin. He lives about 30 miles north of Green Bay.
Yeah.
Sunday afternoon. He said, we got 20 inches of snow and we expect about 12 inches more. So maybe you better not make any plans about July or August, because who knows, the snow might still be there. Yeah. It might get more.
Okay.
It might be wrong.
All right.
Tommy, your super sleuth over here, the one that's been discontinued,
Yeah.
I'm wondering if Bionics has considered putting one of those out. He's come up with a lot
I don't know.
of neat things, transmitters and that.
He has, and he has the transmitters. I don't know if he's gotten into the receiver. I mean, you really can't beat that one.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about this one is you hook it to a Yagi, and you're good for vehicle ones too, because I would do that across the valley and be able to find it almost every time. And then when I got to the park, it would be, okay, right there. You know, fairly easy on short distances for sure. And quite honestly, it doesn't hurt to have a Yagi, even though you use the shielding body method, because you can certainly with a Yagi get an initial heading, and you say, well, it's on that line somewhere. And then you proceed to using the, you know, the body shielding method, et cetera, so forth, to go after that. But
Years ago when the club was running, matter of fact, Brian, who owns Bionics, was running some of the T-hunts years ago.
Right.
And I had used one of these arrow devices along with the homemade attenuator, because back then the club actually had a attenuator building class,
right,
in which they bought all the materials,
right.
and one day got together and everybody built
Right.
an attenuator.
Well, Earl did that too. He you know, with Nellis and with Henderson, he had a few times he would, you know, have a class or a group of people, because he had a little kit that he made up that people could do the things. Questions? No? Okay. Everybody good? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Tell us your name, tell us your call sign, tell us your website.
Okay. Name is Tom Davis, KB7HTA, and website is KB7HTA.com.
Thanks.
And if you want to go straight to the T-Hunt website, it's KB7HTA.com/T-Hunts. Okay?
Thanks.